Man, something feels different in NASCAR right now. And if you have been watching closely, you can feel it too. Not long ago, people were completely sure about Shane Van Gisbergen. They had already made up their minds. In their eyes, he was an incredible road course driver, maybe even elite. But on ovals, that was supposed to be the ceiling. That was the weakness people thought would always hold him back. Conversation over. Debate finished. Case closed. But after what came out over the Easter break, that same confidence suddenly does not sound so loud anymore. Because now the eye test and the numbers are starting to point in the same direction, and if this keeps going, we may have to start talking about Shane Van Gisbergen in a completely different way. And honestly, that is what makes this so fascinating. Because this is not just a story about a talented driver winning where he is supposed to win. This is a story about a driver trying to erase the one thing everyone said he could not do. And if he pulls that off, this goes from being a nice development story to one of the biggest shifts in the entire championship picture. Before we dive in, if you are into real NASCAR talk, honest opinions, and breakdowns that actually go deeper than the surface, make sure you hit like and subscribe. This channel is growing fast, and we are building a community for fans who genuinely live and breathe this sport. Now, let's get into it, because this story is getting serious. If you followed motorsports before Shane Van Gisbergen ever showed up in NASCAR, then you already knew this guy was different. He did not come here as some random name trying to figure things out. He came in with one of the strongest resumes in world motorsport. 3 Australian Supercars championships, more than 80 wins. 3 Bathurst victories, a Bathurst 12-hour win, a podium at the 24 Hours of Daytona. That is not just experience. That is world-class pedigree. This was already a proven racer before most NASCAR fans ever saw him turn a lap. Then came Chicago in 2023, and suddenly everybody knew exactly who he was. 1 Cup start, 1 street course, 1 massive statement. He wins in his debut, and just like that, the entire garage and the entire fan base are forced to look at him differently. It was one of those moments that instantly changes perception. Overnight, SVG went from being a respected international champion to one of the most talked about names in all of motorsports. That win opened the door with Trackhouse Racing, and from there, the bigger NASCAR journey officially began. In 2024, he went full-time in the Xfinity Series to learn the system, learn the cars, learn the style, and most importantly, learn how different NASCAR really is from everything he had done before. It was a solid season. He won 3 races and finished 12th in the standings, which on paper looks promising. But even during that year, one thing was obvious. On road courses, the talent was undeniable. On ovals, the struggle was real. When he got cup opportunities on oval tracks, the results made that crystal clear. His best finish was only 26th at Darlington. That told you everything you needed to know. The challenge was real, and it was not going to disappear overnight. Then came 2025, when he made the full jump to the Cup Series in the number 88 Chevrolet for Trackhouse. And on road courses, he was exactly what people feared he could become: dominant. Absolutely dominant. He won 5 of the 6 road course races. He won in Mexico City by more than 16 seconds, which was the biggest margin the series had seen in over 15 years. He won Chicago again. He won Sonoma after leading 97 laps. He won Watkins Glen. He won the Charlotte Roval. By just his 38th Cup start, he already had 5 wins. That is rare company. That is the kind of start that makes people stop and pay attention very quickly. But the problem was still the same. On ovals, it was a totally different world. His first 3 oval races of 2025 ended with finishes of 31st at Phoenix, 34th at Las Vegas, and 32nd at Homestead. For most of the first half of the season, he was buried outside the top 30 inches points. At one stage, he dropped as low as 33rd before Mexico City basically rescued his year. And what made people respect him was that he never tried to hide from it. He admitted it. He said it was one of the toughest starts to any form of racing he had ever experienced. He openly said the driver was the issue. He talked about not understanding how to fully trust the car in the banking and how unnatural it felt to attack corners the way Cup drivers have to on ovals. His crew chief, Stephen Doran, was also still early in his own Cup journey. So both of them were learning under pressure, making mistakes, and trying to build something while the whole garage watched. But late in 2025, you could feel the first signs of progress. He got his first oval top 10 at Kansas. He finished 11th at Talladega. He brought the car home 14th at Martinsville. Those are not results that make headlines on their own, but they mattered because they showed movement. They showed he was not stuck. He still won Rookie of the Year comfortably. He still made the playoffs. But the big question had not gone away. Could Shane Van Gisbergen actually become good on ovals, or was he always going to be a specialist with a very clear limit? Now fast forward to 2026, and this is where everything starts to get really interesting. 7 races in, and the results already look different. In the Daytona 500, he qualified 13th, led laps, and spent time running inside the top 10 before getting caught in a crash. The finish says 30th, but the speed was there. At Atlanta, he delivered the best oval finish of his career with a 6th-place run. And that result was even more impressive because he had to fight for it. He went through the grass twice and still clawed his way back to finish 6th. That is not luck. That is composure. That is growth. That one race alone jumped him from 28th to 16th in the standings. Then he goes to COTA and finishes 2nd behind Tyler Reddick, falling just short of tying Jeff Gordon's road course streak, but still collecting 48 points and moving up to 5th in the standings. At Phoenix, he spun twice and still recovered to finish 11th. At Las Vegas, his race was ruined on lap 1 and he finished last. But instead of letting that spiral, he bounced back again. At Darlington, he finished 14th. And if you compare that to where he had been on that track in the past, the improvement is obvious. Then, at Martinsville, he started 5th, ran inside the top 10 for most of the day, scored stage points in both stages, and finished 11th. At one point, strategy even had him up to 2nd behind Chase Elliott. That is not something you say about a driver who is still completely lost on ovals. That is something you say about a driver who is starting to understand them. Right now, he sits 14th in the standings with only one top 5 finish, and that tells you something important. He is not living off one giant result. He is not surviving on one lucky weekend. He is putting himself there through consistency. He is learning how to collect points, avoid total disasters, and stay in the fight even when everything is not perfect. And then over the Easter break, NASCAR released advanced metrics that made this whole story even more interesting. Using the adjusted points plus index, which compares drivers to the series average of 100, SVG is now above average on drafting tracks and short tracks. On standard ovals, he is still a little below average, but nowhere near where he was last season when the numbers were painfully low. In simple terms, he is closing the gap, and fast. And maybe the strongest sign of all is that other drivers are noticing it too. Denny Hamlin said elite drivers always find a way to adapt, and he believes SVG is doing exactly that. Chase Elliott said he is not surprised because SVG has a natural feel for the balance of a race car. Christopher Bell said he is clearly getting better and that it might not be long before he becomes competitive on ovals too. Bell even pointed out that with more practice time, like drivers used to get in earlier eras, SVG might be even further ahead by now. Joey Logano has also said he is doing a solid job, and Ross Chastain even joked about rugby balls flying into the stands the day SVG finally wins on an oval. It sounds funny, but jokes like that only happen when there is real belief underneath them. And when you look at Trackhouse right now, that belief starts to make sense. SVG is outperforming a lot of expectations. He is ahead of Ross Chastain in the standings and has finished ahead of him in most races. Connor Zilisch is still adapting to the Cup level, which only highlights how difficult this jump really is. That is what makes Shane's progress stand out even more. This is not a normal transition. This is one of the hardest things a driver can try to do in racing, and he is slowly proving that he might actually pull it off. What I think fans respect most is his mindset. He is not acting like he has arrived. He is not talking like he has everything solved. When he gets asked about winning on an oval, he does not act entitled to it. He has said he does not want a lucky win. He wants to earn it. He wants to know that if he wins on an oval, it happened because he became good enough to deserve it. That tells you everything about where his head is at. He knows he has improved, but he also knows there is still another level to reach. And in 2026, that matters more than ever, because NASCAR brought back the chase format. There is less room to hide now. There is no comfortable safety net. You either perform or you get left behind. That is why this entire story suddenly feels bigger than it did a few months ago. Because if Shane Van Gisbergen keeps improving on ovals at this rate, then he stops being just a road course threat. He becomes a complete threat, a real playoff problem, a driver who can hurt you anywhere if the momentum keeps building. And that, as a fan, is what makes this so exciting. Watching someone enter NASCAR with huge hype, get exposed in one area, admit it without excuses, put in the work, and then genuinely improve week after week, that is what sports are supposed to look like. That is the kind of journey people connect with. Not perfection, progress, not hype, proof. So now the question becomes impossible to ignore. Does SVG get that first oval win this season, or does he still need more time before he breaks through? Because honestly, the way this is trending, that moment feels a lot closer than people want to admit. And here is my take. I do think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to win on an oval sooner than most people expect. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the next race or two, but the progress is real, and more importantly, it looks sustainable. What stands out to me is not just where he is finishing, it is how he is getting there. He is recovering from mistakes. He is staying in the top 10 longer. He is reading races better. He is understanding the rhythm of oval racing much more naturally now. And most importantly, he is no longer driving like a guy who is hoping the car does what he wants. He is starting to anticipate it. And once a driver with that kind of talent reaches that point, things can change very quickly. I am not calling him a championship favorite yet. I still think that is one step too far right now. But if this progression continues deeper into the year and into the playoffs, he could absolutely become one of those drivers nobody wants to deal with. The kind of driver who may not look unbeatable every single week, but suddenly becomes terrifying when it matters most. So yes, I am buying in. Shane Van Gisbergen is not just figuring out ovals anymore. He is becoming dangerous. And if you are new here, this is exactly the kind of NASCAR conversation we do on this channel. Real talk, honest opinions, and storylines that actually matter. So if that sounds like your kind of content, subscribe now and be part of it, because this story is only getting bigger from here.